Welcome back. We're going to get right back into it this week.
Excellent.
Thanks for being here.
It's good to be here on a Monday. Love Mondays. One of my favorite 7 days of the year. Excuse me, of the week.
Speaking of the week, we're in Mark 13.
We were there. We still are there, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll probably be there for what, 2, 3, 5 more weeks?
No, I think next week we're going to finish Mark 13. Perhaps 2 more weeks.
Perhaps.
So, enough with the little tone. Yeah, a little stabbing.
Little decks. All right. So here's what I would like to touch on today. Eschatology, you use that big old word, and talking about the end times. Why? Jesus seems much more practical in his ministry. Love your neighbor. Love one another. Pray for your enemies. Cold drinks of water. Those type of things. Why, as believers, should we even care about the details, the nitty-gritty of these things?
Yeah.
Why should we spend our God-given breath and effort towards learning these things?
Well, I think we want to learn them because the Scripture teaches these things. Now, it is, like I said in our Sunday sermon, there's symbolism in the language. Some of the things are kind of vague. He moves from an event and then right on to another one that's 2,000 years later. And so it's not like we can turn to a particular page like it's an encyclopedia and read all about it. And so we have to kind of piece these things together, but they're part of the Scripture. And so we piece these things together as part of the Scripture. I think the other question or aspect of the question is, why would God put these things in there for us? Because a lot of people say it's going to happen one way or the other. What's the difference, kind of thing. And I think ultimately, as we look at eschatology, as we look at these things, it's a reminder to us of who's in control and who's sovereign. These things aren't just randomly occurring, but the Lord sees these things. He's written about these things. In this case, He's spoken about these things, of how things will turn out in the last days, and thus to ready ourselves when those days do come upon us, or whatever the generation that will be alive in that day. And so I think that's one of the strongest reasons. John said in one of his epistles, he said, whoever has this hope of Jesus' return, whoever has this hope within himself, purifies himself even as he is pure. And so then the idea then is that a person that's expecting that Jesus Christ could come back today is living life differently than a person who thinks, 10 years, 20 years, never in my lifetime, and whatever it be. And you can apply that same thinking to, I'm 48 years old, average lifespan, guy in America, 76, 77. I got 30 more years left. Not necessarily, as we're seeing with this coronavirus and things like that. We don't know how many more days we have. Jesus would say in that passage, no man knows the day or the hour, and so live ready. He would say. So I think that's one of the strongest reasons for why we should dig into these things.
Yeah, I think I would probably have landed on the initial side that you said. Maybe it's going to happen one way or the other. I trust that He's good and it's going to do it in a good fashion.
Sure.
And I think sometimes I've leaned that way because I've seen the others. I've been associated or seen someone from the other side of the pendulum in the other camp that would just solely think about these things, trying to, do the math, speak about it, fire and brimstone all the time. How do we get to the middle? How do we, if we're pendulum swinging, how do we settle?
Well, I think one thing is humility. Jesus said, no man's going to know the day or the hour. And so certainly those that are setting times, that it's going to be this day, it's going to be that day, sell everything you have, come meet me on a mountain, that kind of thing. That's way off to the extreme. So we don't go in that direction. But I think there's also a level of humility in we don't know the day or the hour. And so to get out all of our charts and try to figure it out and narrow it down. I may not know the day or the hour, but I know the year, or something like that. And then we can sort of shove that into other people's faces. I think that's a mistake as well. I said it on Sunday. I think we're getting close. And so since we're getting close, I think it behooves us all the more is to lift up our heads because you're looking for it. Someone's coming home. When I was kids, we knew our cousins were coming over, and my mom would say, "Oh, they just called. They're leaving now." We would go outside and we would wait for them to come pulling up the street. And we know that it's getting close, and so we lift our heads and we look, expectant. And as I closed out yesterday, look, if you're not ready for that, it's time to get ready for that. It's time to put away all those things you've been playing around with and fix your eyes so that when he comes, you won't be found ashamed. He talks about it in another place as well.
So then, even though we're talking about eschatology, even though we maybe throw around some big words or even confusing terms, there is application here. Live with almost an urgent disposition, of an expectant disposition.
Yeah.
And
and I think it's helpful. I think a lot of folks, they come at that from the perspective, oh, I don't want to get caught. If he comes, he's going to catch me and I'll be embarrassed for eternity or something like that. There's something to it, I guess. I mean, that's good.
Think about the virgins, or not the virgins, sorry, the guests waiting. Keep your lamps trimmed.
Yeah.
Keep your lamps trimmed and your oil in order, and be ready. He's coming.
Correct. Yeah. So there's that aspect of it. Don't get caught off guard and stuff. But at the same time, I think maybe from a more positive place of motivation is this idea that the days are short. And so you've been given a commission, and that commission is to go into all the world and make disciples of all nations. There's a limited time frame for us to do that. And so are you busy about that? And if Jesus came back today, would you have communicated with everybody that you wanted to have communicated with? Or did you keep putting it off thinking, I got plenty of time? Well, the reality is at some point in time, you'll have no more time because he's going to return as he said that he would. So positive, maybe a negative aspect of what motivates you.
Yeah. And, I think him coming back is a promise that was long foretold, not just in the New Testament, but long before that there would be a day where there would be no more tears. And so when you think about from the positive side, I think about how I used to feel as a kid on Christmas Eve, like going to sleep with such expectancy that there is going to be good tomorrow, and so in that way it was presence and stuff like that. Sure. But in this way is presence with the Lord. So.
And when Jesus communicated those pretty well-known words in John 14 about I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am you may also be, that was designed to bring comfort to them. And it wasn't this idea of something that they should dread, but something that they should look forward to and long to, and even be motivated by to keep running their race well, because I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am you may also be. Comfort one another with these words, it says. So.
Thanks. So, be encouraged this week. If you're not feeling expectant, if you're not feeling that urgency, I'd imagine time in his presence would draw that out.
I think, I know you're finishing, but let me just say, I think oftentimes the reason why that is because you've become so distracted with other things. And, it's time, like we talk about taking a fast from certain things. There's a lot of things you can take a fast from beside food, to just sort of deal with some of those things that have become distractions for you so that you can instead focus your heart on him.
All right. So application, how to bring Mark 13 into your daily life. And this is just one aspect. And so be blessed this week, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much.